Hey guys, today I want to briefly discuss stress and how training can influence stress and how stress can influence training, and kind of to a degree debunk the common myth of training always being a stress relief. So there's a predisposed notion that training can be relied upon as a stress relief, which is absolutely true. I think the short answer is that yes, it very much so can be. Training is a great way to release endorphins and relieve stress and kind of shave off the intensity of your day and whatever burdens you may be carrying. But oftentimes, when people rely on training to relieve stress, they can oftentimes be disappointed. And more often than not, I will see customers come into the gym stressed and they will exercise, and the stress will actually interfere with their ability to exercise and, in fact, put them in a state of vulnerability when it comes to injury. These are two of many things that how stress can negatively impact your training. So as much as stress may be a training may be a stress relief, you need to be cautious as to what kind of stresses are you undergoing. How much are you allowing them to interfere with your training as opposed to your training alleviating that stress? And then furthermore, does the training become as pleasurable and enjoyable and stress relieving as what it once was without having relied upon it to be a stress relief? So what I mean by that is you don't want your training to become a burden. You want your training to continuously be an outlet, an opportunity for you to alleviate any pressure you may be experiencing, to have fun, to obviously maintain and improve your health. And if you put pressure on your training and you rely upon your training to tick every single box, to relieve stress, to solve all your problems, and more often than not, especially as you get older and take on more responsibilities, you will be disappointed. So I think the best approach to take with these kind of situations and having a healthy relationship and marriage between stress relief and training is to not exercise with the expectation that it's going to relieve your stress, but to exercise and do it because it's a part of your everyday life and have it as one of the many things that contributes to lessening the burden of whatever things may be stressing in your life, because essentially it's an accumulation of many things that you need to focus on in order to alleviate that stress. Whereas if we continuously rely on one thing to fix multiple problems, we'll oftentimes be disappointed. And also, if you are very stressed and you've had a really bad day, you want to be cautious as to how you approach your training that day. Going to the gym and smashing out the hardest session you possibly can to relieve anger may not be the best idea. Oftentimes when we're holding stress in our thoughts and in our minds, we're also holding them in our bodies. If you look at someone that's stressed or depressed or upset, you'll see it in the way that they carry themselves and how their bodily gestures. So if I'm kind of uptight or upset or whatever it may be, and I go do a hard session, the likeliness of me pulling a muscle or strain, particularly when it comes to technical boxing, being relied upon as a training outlet for stress relief, you need to be cautious, because if you're going to training and you're not picking up the drill, you're not doing good in sparring, or you're just not getting your groove on, and you're misunderstanding your coach or whatever it may be, the session and the content of that session itself can actually make you more stressed than what it did having walked into the gym. And that's another major issue that boxing training can have, and the impact it can have on athletes. Often a young boxer will come in to a session and you can just tell by the way they're walking that they've had a rough day, whatever it may be, and they're very delicate. You just need to be really cautious as to what kind of drills you give them. If you give them something too complex that they're not comprehending, they'll be really hard on themselves, and it's just going to heighten the stress that they were experiencing prior to having come to the gym, and then it completely defeats the purpose of them having come in the first place. So again, in that instance, that lad's probably better off, going for that long run, or just hitting the bag and doing something that requires a little less brain, and is just going to give them an opportunity to exercise and just feel really good about it, and not disappoint themselves or disappoint their colleagues or their coaches or whatever. And they can just focus on getting a workout out and leaving, and then hopefully the next day they're feeling a bit better, and you can give them something a little bit more, mentally complex to work on. So make sure that if you are going to train when you're stressed, that it's something that's dumbed down a little bit, and it's not going to put you in a state of in which you're going to disappoint yourself or anyone around you, because you just end up feeling worse than what you did before having come into the gym. Being and your physical well-being, and how to really get the most out of your headspace and your training space, so that the body and mind is really working in sync and not against each other. And stress is just one of the many emotions that can complement your training and also interfere with your training. So be very cautious with that. You try to get to know yourself as best as you can. Only you know you better than anyone else. So try to identify when you're at your best, what kind of approach you should take to your training when you are stressed, and hopefully over the long term, you can really determine efficient and productive ways to exercise and have a healthy stress training balance.